What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School, the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. And today we've got a very special podcast audit episode with my pod pal, Christine from the Amplify Your Marketing Message podcast. Christine, welcome to the show.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for having me.
All right. So let's dive in and talk a little bit about your goals for your show. So if you and I are sitting down 6 months from today, and you've experienced some great growth with your brand, with your show, and your podcast is really on fire, what would that look like for you?
For me, the podcast is really about a strategic part of my business. It is about connecting and building my network of service providers that my clients need to have the end result they seek. So growth, good experts, great content, and people that are implementing what we're talking about. So It's not entertainment, it's implementation and execution to see results.
Yeah. Okay. So what do you feel like is holding you back from getting there right now?
I think it is the shift between I'm going to say the period of where my guests are at. So I've had some guests that have come on that have been really new. I mean, experienced, but new in their business, as in being a business service provider, versus those that are really strong experts who don't use the episode and market the episode as much. So two different needs driving the guest. And it's really finding the sweet spot of who is going to maximize the opportunity and really deliver a lot of value.
Okay. All right. So that's super helpful. What would you say is the goal, like business-wise, of your show? Are you trying to grow your own brand and convert listeners into clients, or is it something different than that?
The goal primarily was not client growth for me specifically. It has generated clients, but that wasn't the primary goal. The primary goal was adding value and a little bit more on the thought leadership side to connect the dots. Because my skill set and where my business is that I'm helping people pull the pieces together. The people who I feature on the podcast are some of the pieces.
Okay, got it. And then are you only doing interviews with your show? Or are you adding some solo episodes? What's that?
It's 50-50. So I've got a split right now. It's 50-50. I started off with all interviews. It's been 50-50. And my question right now is whether I continue to tip more into personal content. But the original goal was, I said, network growth.
Okay.
Building my network.
All right. I think I've got enough information to be dangerous here with some thoughts and some ideas. So I see with your show and with your expertise, you could definitely, if you decide to lean more into the solo content, I think you could have even better results as far as converting listeners into clients. It seems like it's a natural thing that could be happening for you with the type of content that you're putting out there and the education that you're providing. Mm-hmm. And the general ratio that I recommend for service providers like you and I is 2/3 content having you positioned as the expert. So that would still leave you, that would just be a little bit of a shift in that solo episode direction, but that would still leave you that 1/3 of your content to feature collaborators, people that are, like you said, are the pieces that you're trying to connect people to. Mm-hmm. And those would be, you're probably already doing this, but like great affiliate marketing opportunities. And anybody that's in, honestly, if I were you, if anybody that's going to be in that guest seat, I go, okay, how do we make the most out of this? Like, what I wouldn't do is, some random PR firm hits you up and is like, I've got the #1 podcast guest for you. And
I don't take those.
Yeah. A lot of people just say yes to that. I'm like, come on, we need to,
no.
You're
not part of my network.
Exactly.
And you don't add value to my network. I don't need you on my network.
Exactly. So I would look at that guest seat and go, how do they add value to my listeners? Is this a potential collaboration opportunity for me? Do they have a podcast that I could potentially be a guest on? Is this an affiliate partner? Can I promote something they have? Can they promote something that I have? And just kind of use that as like anytime I have somebody on as a guest, I go through that same checklist. I'm like, they need to check a few of these boxes to kind of get to the front of the line to get on the show. So there's that. Now, I also think you could do really, really well with the type of episode that we're doing here, which is like a coaching or mentorship style episode where you invite your listeners or somebody that follows you on social on for like a marketing audit episode, or, kind of just an appetizer to, I just want to allow you to show yourself off as a coach, as a consultant, as a leader, as a thought leader, as an influencer in this space. There's really no better way to do it than these types of episodes where you come on and it's just like, when I do these, I'm thinking on my feet and I've got some basic information. I get a little bit more, but it just allows me, like, this is a lot. Like I just did an hour-long consult with a new client, and it's kind of the same sort of a vibe of me getting ideas and then kind of pinning my ears back and diving into something that's going to help them move the needle. So I think you could do really well with that type of content as well. Have you thought about doing that at all? Or is that something that's crossed your
I've had some clients come on as being guests because of some of the expertise that they share, but I've not done it as a coaching setting. And I would love a perspective, because right now, being given that I have got that 50-50 split, if you were shifting more into either lane, is there a preferred or recommended rhythm to it? Because right now it's equal.
Yeah.
If you go around in terms of the rhythm,
okay,
when to sprinkle in these kinds of things.
All right. So you're thinking just like I do, which is good and bad. All right. And because I'm the same way, where I like a very certain protocol, a rhythm, there's order in the world. I like to put things in boxes and put the boxes in order. Like, that's very much how my brain works. But we can't let that impede our ability to take the show where it needs to go. So for example, for many years, I got in the pattern of I release episodes on Tuesdays and Fridays, and every other Tuesday was an interview. One Tuesday interview, next Tuesday was me. And I started finding myself doing not so great quality interview episodes, because that's kind of like, it's a Tuesday, it's the other Tuesday, I have to put somebody in there. So I eventually just kind of disabused myself of that pattern. And I'm like, I don't think anybody's going to unsubscribe because I do 2 weeks of solo episodes in a row if I don't have a great interview to deliver to them. So that I kind of raised my interview standards a lot. So I'm having better interviews, and that allowed me to kind of be a little bit more free and not so pattern oriented. Now, all that being said, if you do want a rhythm to kind of do a taste test with this, I would go solo episode 1 week, next week coaching episode, next week interview, and just have like a 3-week rotation. Do that, and that keeps the 2/3 expert positioning with the solo and the coaching, then the interview. But I wouldn't, if you have 2 interviews that make sense to do back to back for some reason and they kind of tie in, or 2 solos, anything like that, do that. Like, let that be priority. But so that, as podcasters, I see a lot of podcasters that get into that rhythm. They're like, I'm convinced everyone will unsubscribe if
it's an interesting one.
I change something. Yeah.
It's true, because I find myself for the first time ever without a backlog, and this because of holidays. I don't have a backlog of the interviews in my current rota, and I'm always scheduled out like you are.
Yeah.
But I have got my solo episodes done. And so this is the first time I'm like, am I scrambling to find an interview? Does it really even matter? Or is it just me being pedantic?
I would just
what I'm hearing from you is, don't be pedantic, which is good advice. Thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, when we think about it, people subscribe to our show and they tune in every week because they want advice on this very specific topic. And as long as we deliver that, the package that's delivered in, it doesn't really make any difference. Like, they're showing up for cool stuff. So I would use this as an opportunity. Like, let's release some of those solos. And I bet if you did a little test and you did 3 or 4 solos in a row, I bet you start getting some feedback going, wow, really love the solos. And I bet you'll start seeing an uptick in downloads in those solo episodes. So that's something to consider. And then with this type of an interview, another variation of it that you may want to consider that's a little bit easier to kick things off with would be grab some former clients or current clients and kind of do a success story type of an episode where you unpack their journey. Here's where they came to me, here's where they were at, here's why they hired me, here's the problem that we solved. Let's drop some tips on how we solved that problem. And that way the listener is getting something out of it. Like, ooh, they did these 3 things and it solved this problem. And then kind of unpack their next set of goals. And maybe you do a little bit of, free form ideas on, okay, and here's the next level you need to get to, and here's what I would suggest doing. And that way the listener's getting a lot. It's kind of like a fly on the wall again, but it's a great testimonial for you as well. It's great expert positioning for you. And those are easier to find than a lot of times starting off putting a call to action on social media going, who wants to come on for a blah, blah, blah audit episode? So you'll have some takers, but it's not going to be as consistent. If you've got 15 previous clients that you could just go and get and record these and do 15 minutes, like it doesn't have to be 30 minutes like this. I think anywhere in that 15 to 30 minute zone, I think you could really do well with it. And you could lean into that connection too. So maybe if you really want to be viewed as a connector in your space, just thinking off the top of my head, you could go with each one of those coaching or mentorship style or even testimonial style interviews sessions like this. You can make it a personal goal to mention someone else that's been on your show or someone else that you would like to connect them to, and go, oh, you should definitely, I'm going to connect you to so-and-so. And for those of you listening in, I featured so-and-so in episode number 14 of the podcast or whatever. I'll link that in the show notes. And that way it's kind of stirring it up in a lot of different directions, giving them, it's an episode recommendation for somebody listening in. Oh, if you like this topic, make sure that you listen to my interview with blah, blah, blah. But then that's also a really nice win. And it shows you off as being this hub person of like, not only can you listen to my show, you can come on the show. And not only can you come on my show, I'm going to connect you to other people that can help you out. And it's all free. Like, they're like, wow, over deliver. That's awesome. So any thoughts on that batch of ideas?
Yeah, I really like it. I mean, it's interesting because I had, as I started to introduce the solo episodes, I didn't make a lot of fanfare about these were now solo episodes. And so one of my previous guests said, I need a bit of fine tuning, came back in to listen to my episodes. She's been on my show. And she said, one of the things you said to me really was a catalyst for my next marketing content, because I wasn't pulling the right people, and she's struggled with that. And she's like, I'm shocked. One, I was listening to solo episode, which is awesome because you are great. And I really took a lot of the episode, but she said, then I also realized you mentioned me in your episode. And it happened to be one where I was talking about how do we pull the pieces together? Because that is ultimately where my expertise is it's not enough to just have the insight. You got to go apply it and connect it to something to get the result and movement. That's how it all works. That's the biggest piece I think the market's missing. And she's like, I was just tickled pink. Like that one, you called me out again. And I made such a difference. And I said,
yeah,
I want people to discover. And now that there is a back catalog, because I think released, it's like 55 episodes in.
Nice.
So there's a back catalog now. You can go back to things. And I'm always thinking about how do we connect the dots of previous episodes, because the sequence is still where the strength lies.
Yeah. Yeah. And just getting people to binge listen to your stuff and get into that back catalog. And I mean, I've just noticed the more that I kind of tie the episodes together and mention, oh, if you like this topic, make sure you go back and listen to episode 44 or 144 or whatever, and giving them specific episodes to go and get. The more I do that, the more people binge listen to the show. And when I do like discovery calls and things like that, every single week without fail for like the last year plus, somebody hops on for a discovery call and they're like, Adam, I found your show last Thursday. I've listened to 42 episodes in the last 12 days, or that just like, and then they're like, I'm just ready to go. Yeah. They're like, I'm just ready to go. I don't need to be sold on anything. I need to be told which thing to start with that I'm paying you for. And I'm just like, wow, this is crazy. So if you've got 55 episodes, definitely look for opportunities. And a little ninja move that I use in my show is I put a call to action out there on my newsletter. And sometimes I do it on the show, where people can hop on my SpeakPipe link and record their favorite episode. I'm like, just hop on this and say your name. And so you kind of shout yourself out and what episode is your favorite and why. And playing that really gives those episodes in the back catalog a boost, because I'm not telling them to listen to an episode. Another listener is recommending it. So it's expert positioning, and it just works so much better. Now, I have experimented with that at the beginning of an episode versus the end, and the performance at the beginning is much better because people tend to hit the old skip button or not finish out. They feel a podcast winding down. They're like, and I'm out. I don't need to listen to this ad for Athletic Greens or something that's coming at the end. Like I don't know. So I would experiment with that. And I use SpeakPipe, which is it's free. It's just speak and pipe, pipe.com. And I'll put that link out there and I'll give them a little tiny format for a script like, hey, my name is XYZ from the XYZ podcast. My favorite episode of Podcasting Business School is episode XYZ because, and I'm like, keep it to 60 seconds or less because I can't put a 5-minute thing on there because people will skip that. And I definitely see a spike in whatever episode they mention, like within the next 7 to 14 days, especially. I kind of watch that and it's pretty cool that I'm like, why don't they listen to it when I say that? But if somebody else does it, it's just that much more meaningful, I guess. So that's definitely something that if you would like to tie episodes together, definitely try that out. Does that make sense?
It does. Just a question. When you do those intros, do you still run your format the same way the episode? Because the episode's already recorded, or are you editing to slice that?
Yeah. So what I do is I make that the first audio that they hear. So they just downloaded an episode and all of a sudden it's somebody else talking. It's a complete pattern disrupt. So they will listen to it for the most part, because I mean, who knows what this is? Like, this is somebody else and it's not my voice. If it's a female voice, it's way better. It gets way more because it's just like, this is definitely not Adam. Like this is, and they'll listen for 30 seconds to see what they're talking about. And so it's just the first audio they hear. I don't prep them for anything. I just, it's, if you record one of these, it's you talking, and then I'll go into my normal stuff right after that. And that's been the best performing variation. Sometimes I'll do a little call to action of my own and then put the episode recommendation and then start the show. But if it's just the cold intro right off the top, that's worked the absolute best, because that pattern disrupt factor, it's unique. And I know shows that I listen to, if they have the same thing at the beginning every single time, I just skip right on through that. I'm like, let's get to the good stuff, y'all. And
well, and that's when you're binge watching. That's when you're like, I hate having intros when I'm binge watching, but when I'm new to the episode, I'm like, where the hell am I? I need an orientation. And
it's a value add. If it's an episode recommendation from another listener, that's a value add. That's not an ad. That's just a value add, because they're saving them time and like, wow, that sounds really interesting. And you've got 55 episodes. That's enough. I got 400 episodes. So if somebody goes, go back to episode 181, like that, they probably wouldn't go back that far normally. Some people do, and we appreciate those people. But we love them. But that's high value. And maybe somebody does get into that, and then they're like, wow, there's a few other ones in the way back machine I need to be checking out here. And all of a sudden they've listened to 50 episodes and we got them with that literal voice of reason in their earbuds every single week. So, I like that strategy quite a bit. Also look at your email funnels. I've had a lot of success. Like, I build email funnels based off of podcast episodes. Like, 'cause I'm not the best at email marketing, but this format has really helped me, where I'll create a lead magnet. I'm like, all right, I'm going to kick out 15 emails off this thing. And usually there's like, the first email is how to use the lead magnet. And there's a few sales emails in there every once in a while. But the other ones, I go, maybe there's 12 emails left out of the 15. I'll go, all right, if I could have, based off of this lead magnet, whatever they just opted in for, out of all my episodes, what would the 12 most helpful episodes be for this person that just showed interest in this specific topic? And I'll tie those into those 12 emails, where I'll do a little mini write-up on the topic. And it's kind of like, and if you like this, you're going to love this episode. Go ahead and dig in. And that'll be the only link in those episodes. It's not like to buy anything or anything like that. It's like, let's just get these people binging on these episodes that are ideal for them. And that has really made my sales funnels more effective. So that's another way to tie in episodes to kind of just add some expert positioning flavor to all your stuff.
Yeah, I love that you're talking about that in the lead magnet, because we've just launched a book today. And one of the things I'm doing in the book is leading to the podcast episodes that are supporting it. But I hadn't thought about other lead magnets. And that's a great tip. So thank you.
Yeah. Just kind of going back and looking where in any email funnel is like, okay, based off the topic of that email, is there a podcast episode that I could name drop in here? I do this when I speak on stages, at virtual stages and real life stages too. If I'm doing a 5-step checklist, I usually have a podcast episode. I'm like, hey, screenshot this or hit the QR code to go to that episode where I dive deeper on this. And think about being on a live stage and people are sitting there hitting their phone, QR coding it and they're just downloading episodes. And now you're in their pocket on the way home on that flight, and they're listening to 5 of your shows. Like, that's a huge advantage. So those people are getting into our world. They're following up. They're scheduling discovery calls. They're hiring us for stuff, or they're just becoming super fans, which is also super cool. So yeah, I think to kind of summarize what we've talked about, leaning into the expert positioning, maybe doing some coaching, mentorship, or testimonial style episodes. I love that you are looking at ways to incorporate your episodes into your content, giving people more reasons to listen to more episodes. I think that's super smart. So yeah, I want to give you the opportunity to shout out your show and your brand right here live on my show. So give us your website, social, where people can find your podcast and all the good things.
Awesome. Thank you for that opportunity. So yes, my name is Christine Campbell-Rappin. That is where you're going to find me, ChristineCampbellRappin.com. I'm a business mentor for creative service-based entrepreneurs. We actually help you build the business foundations to create scalable success. So my big thing is start at the beginning. How do you build an audience of buyers? That's what you'll find in this podcast, Amplify Your Marketing Message.
Outstanding. All right, Pod Pals. And if you want to come on for a podcast audit, just like Christine has done here today, head on over to the website, www.podcastingbusiness.school. Get signed up, get on the calendar, and we'll get you on the show. And with that, Pod Pals, I'm going to send you out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. We'll see you next time.